Revenge with Karen.
I knew the platform was doomed the moment I saw the new organizational chart. It wasn't a PDF. It was a vibe-curated Pinterest board sent via a Slack channel named #NewBeginningsSparkles. I've spent 6 years keeping the back end of Scholar Sync from imploding under the weight of 250,000 students. I've missed Christmases, funerals, and arguably the prime of my 30s staring at cascading style sheets and server load balancers, ensuring that some kid in rural Nebraska didn't get booted out of his AP Calculus final because a database hiccuped. I am the janitor of the internet's plumbing, and I smell like stale coffee and dry shampoo. But there I was, sitting in a Zoom meeting that cost more per minute than my car, watching Avery, our founder's daughter and freshly minted CEO, explain why we needed to pivot to joy. Avery looked like she had been manufactured in a lab funded by Sephora and Daddy's trust fund. She was 26, had never written a line of code in her life, and spoke exclusively in LinkedIn buzzwords that sounded like they were generated by a stroke victim on ChatGPT. "Tessa, hun," she said, her voice dripping with the kind of toxic positivity that usually precedes a layoff or a cult recruitment. "We love what you do with the computer beep boop stuff. Really, it's so structural. But we need sparkle. We need vision." Beside her on the screen, holding a matcha latte that probably cost $12, was Kinsley. Kinsley was Avery's sorority sister. Kinsley's previous work experience included running a frantic Instagram account for a failed bikini startup and getting banned from Uber for vomiting in a Tesla. "Meet your new chief technology visionary," Avery announced, clapping her hands like a seal that just swallowed a Xanax. "Kinsley is going to revolutionize the user experience. She's going to make studying aesthetic." I stared at the camera. My eye twitched. I felt the familiar burn of acid reflux, my body's way of telling me I was in the presence of overwhelming stupidity. "Look, before I tell you how I burned this kingdom to the ground, do me a solid and hit that subscribe button and give this a like. It fuels my rage fire and helps the algorithm find other people who hate their bosses." "Thanks, now back to the circus." "Chief technology visionary," I repeated, my voice flat. "Does that mean she knows Python, Ruby, SQL, or are we talking about the snake, the gem, and the sequel to a movie she didn't watch?" Kinsley giggled. It was a sound like glass breaking in a dishwasher. "Oh, Tessa, you're so retro. I don't code, I ideate. I'm going to curate the vibe of the interface. We're thinking millennial pink for the error messages. Make failure feel inclusive, you know?" I muted my mic to scream. This wasn't just annoyance. This was an existential threat. Scholar Sync isn't Instagram. It's an exam platform. It handles high-stakes testing for universities across the country. If the system lags for 3 seconds, students panic. If it crashes, degrees are delayed, scholarships are lost. My inbox turns into a crime scene of angry faculty emails. We were 3 weeks away from the gauntlet, the 10-day period of midterms where traffic spikes by 400%. The servers run hotter than a stolen catalytic converter. It requires precision, silence, and a total freeze on new code deployment. And they just hired a woman whose primary skill set was finding the best lighting for a selfie to run the tech department. That night, insomnia hit me like a freight train. I was sitting in my home office, a converted closet filled with humming monitors and the ghost of my social life, watching the real-time logs. The server hum is usually my lullaby. It's the sound of order, the sound of things working. But then, a line of red text scrolled past my peripheral vision. "Alert, unauthorized deployment to production. User, admin Kinsley." My blood turned into liquid nitrogen. Production. Don't touch production on a Tuesday night. You don't touch production ever without 3 tickets, a sign-off, and a blood sacrifice. I tapped into the logs, my fingers flying across the mechanical keyboard like I was playing a concerto of panic. I traced the command. Kinsley, or more likely, some poor unpaid intern she'd hired off Craigslist, had bypassed the staging environment entirely. They were pushing a front-end update. Live, to the active server. Pulled up the code diff. It wasn't a security patch. It wasn't a bug fix. It was a confetti animation. They added a script that made digital confetti explode across the screen whenever a student clicked submit. "You have got to be kidding me," I whispered to the empty room. The script was bloated. It was pulling assets from a third-party server hosted in what looked like a basement in Belarus. It was unoptimized. It was a ticking time bomb. Every time that confetti triggered, locked the browser thread for 400 milliseconds. Doesn't sound like much. Multiply that by 50,000 concurrent students submitting exams at 10 o'clock a.m. That's not a lag. That's a distributed denial of service attack on our own infrastructure. I reached for the revert button. My finger hovered over the key. I could fix this. I could roll back the update, send a polite email explaining why we don't push confetti codes during peak hours. Save the day. That's what I've done for 6 years. I'm the fixer. I'm the reliability engineer. I'm the one who makes sure the ship doesn't sink while the captain is drunk at the buffet. But then I remembered Avery's voice. We need sparkle. You're too negative, too structural. I looked at the code again. It was sloppy, dangerous, and incredibly stupid. It was exactly what they asked for. I didn't revert it. Instead, I opened a new ticket in my private backlog, crypted it under a folder labeled Doomsday, and wrote a single comment. Observation. Confetti script introduces critical latency stack overflow. Estimated time to total system paralysis, 21 days. Action taken, none. I leaned back in my chair, the leather creaking under the weight of my exhaustion. The blue light of the monitors washed over me. I wasn't going to stop them. Not yet. If they wanted to drive the car off the cliff, I wasn't going to take the keys. I was just going to make sure I was wearing a parachute when we went over the edge. But I had no idea just how fast they were planning to accelerate. The notification on my phone lit up the darkroom. A calendar invite for tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock a.m. Subject, performance review/role alignment. Sent by Avery, CEO. My stomach dropped. In corporate speak, role alignment is Latin for we found someone cheaper who agrees with us. I looked at the unauthorized confetti code still pulsing in the logs, a neon-colored cancer in my clean system. They weren't just going to ruin the platform, they were going to blame me for the wreckage on the way out. I lit a stick of incense, my only vice, since I don't smoke, and watched the smoke curl around the monitor stand. Okay, Avery, I murmured. You want a show. See how much sparkle you have when the lights go out. The conference room smelled like expensive perfume and betrayal. It was the glass fishbowl room, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows facing the open-plan office. Ensuring that everyone could watch your execution like it was a matinee showing of the Hunger Games. Avery sat at the head of the table, flanked by the HR director, a woman named Linda who had the personality of a wet cardigan, and Kinsley was scrolling through TikTok with the volume on low. The tinny sound of a viral dance track provided the soundtrack to my professional demise. Tessa, thanks for making time, Avery started, flashing a smile that didn't reach her dead, shark-like eyes. She clasped her hands on the table. We've been doing a lot of soul-searching about the direction of ScholarSync. Soul-searching, I repeated, keeping my face neutral. That what we're calling the unauthorized code pushed to production last night? Avery blinked. Kinsley stopped scrolling. Oh, that, Kinsley chimed in, waving a manicured hand. That was just a little zhuzh. The platform felt so sterile. We wanted to add some joy to the submission process. Did you see the confetti? It's cute, right? It creates a 400 millisecond latency spike per user, I said, my voice steady. If 10,000 students submit at once, database lockwait timeout will trigger. The system will crash. It's not cute, Kinsley. It's a math problem. Avery sighed, a long, dramatic exhalation of air that signaled I was being difficult. See, this is exactly what we wanted to talk about, Tessa. This energy, it's very blocker-focused. We need enablers. Linda, the HR director, slid a piece of paper across the table. It was face down, the universal sign of a severance package. Tessa, Linda said, voice soft and pitying, the way you talk to a dog you're about to put down. The company is moving toward a more agile, brand-forward identity. We feel your skill set is legacy. You're incredible at maintenance, really. But Kinsley's team is going to handle the tech vision moving forward. We're bringing in some developers from her agency who understand the aesthetic requirements. I looked at the paper. I didn't flip it over yet. I looked at Avery. You're firing me. 3 weeks before the gauntlet. We're not firing you, Avery corrected quickly. We're eliminating your position due to redundancy. Kinsley is effectively the CTO now, and we don't need a reliability engineer when the new vision is all about flow. Flow, I said. You know flow stops when the servers catch fire, right? Who is going to manage the load balancers? Who is going to patch the SQL injection vulnerabilities? Who is going to ensure the exam timers don't desync when the daylight savings switch happens next week? Kinsley laughed. God, you sound like my dad. Security, security. We have the cloud, Tessa. The cloud handles that stuff. I stared at her. It was a stare so profound, so filled with the realization that I was speaking to a person who thought the cloud was a literal magical nebula that solved problems, that I momentarily lost the ability to speak English. The cloud, I said slowly, is just other people's computers. And right now, those computers are managed by me. If I leave, there is no one steering the ship. We'll figure it out. Avery chirped, standing up to signal the meeting was over. We have a transition plan. You'll have access until Friday at 5 p.m. to hand over your credentials and document your, whatever it is you do. We're giving you a very generous severance. 2 weeks. 2 weeks, I stood up. Chair scraped loudly against the floor. I've been here 6 years. I built the architecture that pays for your matcha lattes. Standard policy, Linda murmured, looking at her shoes. I looked at the three of them. Avery, the nepotism baby-playing CEO. Kinsley, the influencer cosplaying as an engineer. Linda, the coward. A cold calm washed over me. It was the same calm I felt when a server rack overheated or a database corrupted. Panic is for amateurs. Professionals assess the damage, isolate the variable, and execute a solution. Right now, the variable was them. Okay, I said. I reached out and took the paper. Friday at 5 p.m., got it. Great. Avery beamed. Oh, and Tessa, try to be a little more collaborative during the handover. We want good vibes only. I walked out of the fishbowl. I could feel the eyes of the junior developers on me. They knew. They saw the body language. Knew the only person who knew how the encryption keys were rotated was walking the plank. I went back to my desk. My hands weren't shaking. I wasn't crying. I was calculating. Friday at 5 p.m. That gave me 48 hours. They wanted me to document what I did. Oh, I would document it. I would document exactly how fragile their little kingdom was. I sat down and unlocked my terminal. User, Tessa admin. Access level, root. I typed in a command to check the current system status. Uptime, 412 days. That number was a badge of honor. It was about to become a tombstone. I opened a new file, handoff procedures txt. I typed the first line, step 1, pray. Then I minimized that window and opened the deep system diagnostics. The code Kinsley had pushed, the confetti script, was already causing minor memory leaks. I could see the RAM usage creeping up, pixel by pixel. I could have fixed it right then. A simple git revert. Instead, I opened the scheduler. I found the process responsible for clearing the memory cache, the digital janitor that keeps the system from choking on its own garbage. It was set to run every hour. I changed the setting. Interval, never. Then I saved the change. It wouldn't be noticed today. It wouldn't be noticed tomorrow. But once the traffic hit, once the exam started, the server would eat its own memory until it suffocated. But that wasn't enough. That was just petty. I needed something absolute. I needed a kill switch that they would beg me to turn off. I looked at the calendar. Exams started Monday morning at 9 a.m. My access was cut Friday at 5 p.m. I had a window. I cracked my knuckles. Good vibes only, I whispered. You got it, boss. Next 24 hours were a blur of malicious compliance and architectural sabotage. I wasn't destroying the system. Let's be clear about that. I am an engineer. I don't break things. I build them to function exactly as instructed. And if the instructions are let the influencers run the asylum, then I am obligated to ensure the asylum functions exactly as an influencer-run asylum should. Tragically, I spent Wednesday night and Thursday morning ostensibly documenting my workflow. In reality, I was building a ghost in the machine. The core of Scholar Sync relies on a master scheduling engine. Think of it as a massive traffic cop directing 200,000 students to their specific exam rooms at specific times. If the traffic cop falls asleep, nobody gets to take their test. The exam simply doesn't load. I navigated to the deepest, darkest corner of the legacy codebase, a module written 4 years ago called Emergency Exam Halt.js. It was a safety feature I wrote myself. In the event of a catastrophic data breach or a server fire, this script allowed a superadmin to instantly freeze all active exams to preserve data integrity. It was the nuclear option. It had never been used. I cloned the script. I renamed the clone Vibe Check Protocol. I began to modify the trigger conditions, deeply nested within the logic, wrapped in layers of obscure variable names that Kinsley wouldn't understand, even if she knew how to open the file. I set the trigger condition to verify a specific digital signature, my digital signature. If user, Tessa admin is not active in the employee database, then execute vibe check protocol. But I didn't want it to happen instantly. That would be too obvious. They'd blame me immediately. No, it had to look like a system failure caused by incompetence, not malice. I added a time delay. Delay, 72 hours from last valid login. Friday at 5 p.m. plus 72 hours meant Monday evening. Right in the middle of the first day of finals, I added one more layer. A fail-safe variable. var stupid branding override equals true. I buried this variable inside the CSS file for the new confetti animation Kinsley loved so much. Script was designed to check for the confetti. As long as that bloated, broken confetti code was running, my kill switch was armed. If they had simply reverted the bad code, if they had done the one thing a competent team would do, the kill switch would deactivate. It was a test. If they were smart enough to fix Kinsley's mistake, they would save themselves. I was betting my entire severance package that they weren't. Thursday afternoon, I started exporting my personal logs. Years of work, proof of every time I saved the company from disaster. I put it all on an encrypted drive. As I was watching the progress bar, my Slack pinged. It was Kinsley. Kinsley, CTO visionary. Hey T, waving hand just checking on that handover doc. Also, can you make sure the server rack lights are set to blue? The green is kinda aggressive. THX. I stared at the message. She was worried about the color of the LED lights on the physical servers. Servers live in a data center in Virginia. We are in Colorado. Nobody sees the lights except the security guard and the air conditioning repairman. I typed back, Tessa, sure, Kinsley. I'll prioritize the chromatic ambience of the hardware located 2,000 miles away. Kinsley, you're the best. Sparkle, she didn't even catch the sarcasm. She was immune to irony. I opened the command line for the data center's remote management tool. I didn't change the lights. I changed the alert routing. Usually, if a server overheats or fails, an SMS is sent to the on-call engineer, me. I deleted my number. I entered the new number, Avery's cell phone. Then I entered a second number, Kinsley's cell phone. And just for good measure, I set the alert sound to a WAV file I uploaded. It wasn't a standard beep. It was a recording of a screaming goat I found on a sound effects site. The system went down at 3 a.m. The CEO and her visionary bestie were going to be woken up by a goat screaming at max volume every 30 seconds until the alert was acknowledged. I felt a small, dark smile tug at the corner of my mouth. Documentation complete, I whispered. I looked around the office. The open floor plan was buzzing. People were drinking cold brew and discussing their weekend plans. I had no idea that the floor beneath them was made of paper, and I was about to light a match. I saw Greg, a junior dev who was actually decent. He looked stressed. He caught my eye and gave a small, sad wave. He knew I was getting the boot. I opened a direct message to Greg. Tessa, hey Greg. If things get weird next week, check the legacy routing table. But don't fix it until they ask you to. Trust me. Greg, Tessa, trust me. And update your LinkedIn. I closed the laptop. 1 day left. The crossing was almost complete. I had built the bridge, rigged the explosives, and was now just waiting to walk across it and detonate it from the other side. Friday arrived with the grim inevitability of a dental appointment. The office vibe was manic casual. Everyone knew I was leaving, but nobody wanted to acknowledge the awkwardness, so they just smiled too hard and avoided eye contact. At 2 p.m., Avery stopped by my desk. She was wearing a blazer that cost more than my first car and holding a tablet like it was a holy relic. Tessa, she chirped, leaning against my cubicle wall. How's the wrap-up going? All the wires tucked away. The documentation is on the shared drive, I said, not looking up from my screen. I've listed the critical dependencies. I also flagged the latency issue with the confetti script. Again, Avery laughed, a dismissive, airy sound. Oh, Tessa, you and your latency. Kinsley says the metrics are fine. Engagement is up. People are staying on the submission page longer. They're staying longer because the page is frozen, I said, turning my chair to face her. That's not engagement, Avery, that's frustration. Avery's smile faltered for a microsecond, then reassembled itself into a mask of pity. Look, I know this is hard. You built a functional thing. It's cute. It's like a Toyota Camry. Reliable, boring. We're building a Tesla. Teslas catch fire, I noted. We hope you understand, she continued, ignoring me. You're brilliant in your own retro way. But the industry is changing. Branding matters. Kinsley has followers. She has a platform. When she tweets about an update, our stock price moves. When you fix a bug, well, nobody really cares, do they? That was the moment. That was the sentence that snapped the final tether of my conscience. Nobody really cares. I thought about the 250,000 students. I thought about the single mothers taking night classes to get a nursing degree. I thought about the kids on scholarship who couldn't afford to retake a class if the system ate their final paper. I cared. I cared so much it made my chest ache. And that's why I had to do this. Because if I left this system in the hands of people who thought engagement meant a frozen browser, those students were going to be the victims. Ever write a rollback script, Avery? I asked quietly. She blinked. A what? A rollback script. It's what you use when you realize you've made a terrible mistake and you need to undo it before it destroys everything. It's the emergency stop button. We don't plan on making mistakes, she said, flipping her hair. We manifest success. Right, I said, manifesting. Well, good luck with that. Kinsley sashayed over, holding a bottle of champagne. Happy last day tea. Popping bottles in the break room at 4:30. You should come. No hard feelings, right? I looked at the champagne, cheap, sweet. Probably gave you a headache just by looking at it. I have a few last things to clean up, I said. You guys go ahead. Celebrate the vision. Suit yourself, Kinsley said. She turned to Avery. Oh my God, did you see the mock-ups for the new login screen? We're adding a daily affirmation pop-up. They walked away, chatting about fonts and affirmations. I turned back to my terminal. It was 4:15 p.m. I had 45 minutes. I checked the vibe check protocol one last time. It was armed. The trigger was set. The goat screaming alerts were queued, but I decided to leave them one tiny breadcrumb, a final test of character. I opened the MOTD message of the day, file, on the server. This is a text file that only admins see when they log into the backend console. I typed, warning, the load-bearing column has been removed. If you see confetti, you are already dead. Call me if you want to live. Consultant rate, triple. I saved the file. They would never see it. They didn't know how to log into the console. They only used the pretty dashboard Kinsley's team built, the one that was currently lying to them about the system health. At 4:55 p.m., I stood up. I packed my framed photo of my cat, my ergonomic mouse, my cactus. I took my badge out of my pocket. I walked to the security desk at the front. The guard, an older guy named Earl, who I'd shared coffee with for 6 years, looked sad. Leaving us, Tessa? Yep. Moving on to greener pastures, Earl. Place won't run the same without you, he grunted. No, I said, handing him the badge. It really won't. I walked out the glass doors into the parking lot. The Colorado sun was bright and sharp. Air smelled like pine and impending doom. I got into my car. I didn't look back. My phone buzzed, a notification from the generic support ticketing system, which I hadn't logged out of yet. Ticket #9901, student reporting slow load times on practice exam. Priority, low, it was starting. The memory leak from the confetti script was filling the bucket, drop by drop. I turned off notifications. I started the engine. Manifest that, I said. Weekend was surreal. For the first time in 6 years, my phone didn't vibrate with the phantom limb sensation of a server outage. I slept in on Saturday. I went to a farmer's market. I bought artisanal cheese. I felt like a normal human being, or at least a simulation of one, but the back of my brain was still running a background process. I kept glancing at the clock, mentally calculating the server load. Saturday, 2:00 p.m., weekend study groups are logging in. Traffic is moderate. The memory leak is probably at 40%. The confetti is still flying, eating up RAM like Pac-Man. Sunday, 8:00 p.m., the panic set is logging in. Students realizing they have exams tomorrow. Traffic spikes. The database is starting to sweat. I resisted the urge to check the public URL. That was the rule, total severance. If I checked, I was involved. If I was involved, I was liable. I had to be a ghost. Monday morning, 9:00 a.m., the beginning of the gauntlet. I sat on my patio with a mug of coffee, watching the squirrels fight over a walnut. It was peaceful. My laptop sat closed on the table. I knew exactly what was happening inside the Scholar Sync headquarters right now. At 9:05 a.m., Avery was likely getting her second matcha. At 9:10 a.m., first wave of East Coast students sat down for their 10 a.m. exams, Eastern Time. At 9:15 a.m., the vibe check protocol was waking up. The script I had written was designed to be subtle at first. It wouldn't crash the whole system. That's too easy to spot. Instead, It targeted the auth token verification. Every 90 seconds, the script would randomly invalidate 5% of active session tokens. To the user, it looked like their internet blinked. Exam would pause and say, "Connection lost." Reconnecting, then it would reconnect. Then, 90 seconds later, it would drop again and again. It was psychological torture. It was the digital equivalent of a water drip on the forehead. At 9:30 a.m., I opened Twitter. I refused to call it X. I searched for Scholar Sync. Nothing yet, just the usual bot posts. Then, at 9:42 a.m., the first pebble slid down the mountain. Study Girl 99. Why does Scholar Sync keep logging me out? I'm in the middle of bio and I'm gonna scream. Scholar Sync #finals. Hell, I took a sip of coffee. 9:45 a.m. At Brad the Chad. Bro, Scholar Sync is tweaking. My timer keeps resetting, but the questions aren't loading. At Scholar Sync, fix your app. 9:50 a.m. The official Scholar Sync account tweeted, "Hey scholars, experiencing some minor connectivity vibes due to high traffic. Don't worry, we're manifesting a fix." Sparkle's #study vibes. I actually laughed out loud. Connectivity vibes, they had no idea. They thought it was traffic. They were probably spinning up more server instances right now to handle the load. But that was the trap. My script monitored the number of server instances. If server count 10, then increase error rate by 20%. Adding more servers to fix the traffic problem, they were actually accelerating the crash. It was a Chinese finger trap. The harder they pulled, the tighter it got. At 10 o'clock a.m., the floodgates opened. The trending tab on Twitter updated. #Scholar Sync down was trending at number 5, directly below #Met Gala and #World War III. My phone screen lit up. It wasn't a notification. It was a call. Caller ID, Avery, CEO. I stared at the screen. The buzzing caused the table to vibrate, startling a squirrel. I didn't answer. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. Then it rang again. Caller ID, Kinsley Visionary. I declined the call. I picked up my coffee and walked inside. I had some laundry to do, and maybe I'd watch a Danny DeVito movie. I heard Matilda was good. The system was doing exactly what it was designed to do, failing the people who failed it. By noon, internet was burning. I had moved from the patio to my living room, casting my laptop screen to the 65-inch TV so I could watch the disaster in 4K resolution. It was better than any reality TV show I had ever seen. The #Scholar Sync down was now #1 globally. It had surpassed the actual news. Senators were tweeting about it. Senator Davis Ka, unacceptable failures at Scholar Sync are jeopardizing the futures of thousands of students. We demand answers. I checked the Scholar Sync status page. It was a sea of red. Database, critical login, timeout API, non-responsive vibes, bad, okay. I made that last one up, but it was implied. The voicemails were piling up. I had 17 missed calls from Avery, 12 from Kinsley, 4 from Linda in HR, 1 from a number I didn't recognize, which turned out to be the chairman of the board. I listened to one of Avery's voicemails on speaker while I folded towels. "Tessa, hi, it's Avery. Haha, so funny story. The system is acting a little quirky. Kinsley thinks it's a DDoS attack from Russia. Anyway, we need the password to the black screen thing. The command prompt, call me back ASAP. Please, like seriously. A DDoS attack from Russia." Classic. In doubt, blame the hackers. I imagined Kinsley in the server room, staring at the racks of blinking lights, maybe trying to smudge them with sage to clear the negative energy. Then, the piece de resistance. Kinsley went live on Instagram. I clicked the notification. She was in the office. Behind her, you could see chaos. Developers were running around. Someone was literally crying at their desk. Kinsley had a ring light set up. She was wearing a headset that wasn't plugged into anything. "Guys," she said, her voice trembling slightly but the filter keeping her skin flawless. "So, we know things are a little crazy right now. We are literally working so hard to fix the glitches. It's just that so many of you are logging in to see our new confetti feature that it's overwhelming the cloud. We're suffering from success. Bear with us." The comments were a waterfall of hatred. "I just failed Chem 101 because of your confetti. Resign. My timer ran out while I was watching you talk. Who is this clown?" Suddenly, in the background of the video, a loud, guttural scream cut through the noise. It wasn't a human, it was the goat. Bah! The alert sound I had set for the server overheat. It was coming from Avery's phone, which she was holding as she ran into the frame behind Kinsley. "Kinsley, turn that off. My phone won't stop screaming." Avery yelled, not realizing they were live. I'm live, Avery. Kinsley hissed, trying to block the camera. I don't care. The board is on the line. They say the stock dropped 40% in 2 hours. Fix it. I don't know how. Tessa locked the stream cut to black. I sipped my iced tea. Tessa locked nothing, I said to the TV. Tessa just took the keys with her. My laptop pinged. A new email. Subject, contracting inquiry urgent from Board of Directors at Scholar Syncom. Dear Miss Tessa, have been informed that you recently left the company. We are experiencing a catastrophic service interruption. Current leadership has indicated difficulties in resolving the issue. We would like to discuss retaining your services immediately as an external consultant. Name your price. I looked at the email. I looked at the TV, where a CNN anchor was now talking about the exampacalypse. I typed a reply. Board of Directors from Tessa. Subject, contracting inquiry. I am currently unavailable. I recommend asking the Chief Technology Visionary to manifest a solution. If she cannot, I will be available for a call at 9:00 a.m. tomorrow. My rate is $500 per hour, with a minimum retainer of 100 hours paid upfront. Also, I will require full autonomy. And an apology. Sent. I didn't wait for a reply. I knew it would come. Panic was only just beginning. The 72-hour delay on my vibe check protocol hadn't even hit its final phase yet. Right now, it was just the confetti script choking the RAM. Wait until Monday evening when the logic bomb actually detonated and locked the admin accounts. Pass the popcorn. By Tuesday morning, Scholar Sync wasn't just a trending topic. It was a cautionary tale in business journals. Orbs had already published an article titled, When Vibes Meet Reality, the Scholar Sync Meltdown. I finally accepted the Zoom invite from the Board of Directors at 9:00 a.m. sharp. I didn't dress up. I wore my I told you so hoodie. It's just a plain gray hoodie, but in my heart the text is neon. When the camera connected, the mood was funereal. Avery was there, looking like she hadn't slept in 3 days. Her mascara was a smear of tragedy. Kinsley was absent. The chairman, a man named Sterling, who usually looked like he was carved out of mahogany and money, looked gray. Miss Tessa, Sterling said, his voice grave. Thank you for joining us. We are in a bind. A bind implies you're stuck, I said calmly. You're not stuck. You're sinking. There's a difference. Avery flinched. Tessa, please, just tell us the password. The system locked us out. It says vibe check failed on the admin screen. Did you do this? Didn't do anything, I said. I wrote a protocol years ago to protect the system integrity in case of incompetent administration. It seems the system detected incompetent administration and initiated a protective lockout. You sabotaged us. Avery shrilled, finding a spark of her old entitlement. You planted a virus. I planted a logic check, I corrected. Did you revert the confetti script? Avery blinked. The what? The confetti script. One Kinsley pushed to production last Tuesday. The one I told you explicitly would cause a memory leak. The one I documented in my exit report. Avery looked down. We thought it was branding. We didn't think it was technical. Everything is technical, Avery, I said. That script caused the memory leak. My protocol simply checked, is the system running dangerous code? And is there a competent admin logged in to fix it? The answer to both was no. So, pulled the emergency brake to stop you from deleting the entire student database by accident. Sterling cleared his throat. Wait, you warned them about this? In writing, I said, on Tuesday, again on Wednesday, and verbally on Thursday during my exit interview. I also left a MOTD file on the server warning about the load-bearing column. Did anyone check the server logs? Silence. A VP in the corner muttered. We asked Kinsley to check the logs. Said she was intuiting the data. Sterling put his head in his hands. Jesus Christ. Here is the situation, I said, leaning into the camera. The system is currently in a recursive lockout. It's saving the data. The student exams aren't lost. They're frozen. It's a cryogenics chamber. But if you try to force restart it without knowing the decryption key, you will corrupt the SQL tables and lose everything. 250,000 exams. Gone. Permanently. Avery went pale. Can you fix it? Sterling asked. Yes, how long? 30 minutes to stop the bleeding. 24 hours to repair the structural damage Kinsley did. Do it, Sterling said. Please, we'll pay the rate. The rate has changed, I said. I took a sip of water. The theatrical pause was delicious. I want the contract, but I also want full executive control of the engineering department. No oversight from the CEO, no visionary input. And one more thing. Aim it, Sterling said. I want Avery and Kinsley to issue a public apology to the students. Not a mistakes were made PR statement. a specific admission that they prioritized aesthetics over functionality and ignored technical safety warnings. And I want it posted on the homepage. Avery gasped. I can't do that. It'll ruin my personal brand. I looked at Sterling. Sterling looked at Avery. The look was not fatherly. It was the look of a man watching his portfolio burn. You'll do it, Avery, Sterling said, his voice like grinding stones. Or you'll be explaining to the SEC why we defrauded our customers. I smiled. It didn't reach my eyes. It didn't have to. I'll send over the contract, I said. Once the retainer hits my bank account, I'll send the decryption key. I ended the call. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel sad. I felt reliable. Money hit my account 14 minutes later. It was an obscene amount of money, enough to pay off my mortgage and buy a very nice bottle of scotch. But the money was secondary. The access was primary. I logged in. User, Tessa Consultant. Access, God mode. The terminal greeted me like an old friend. The cursor blinked, waiting for orders. First, the bleeding. I navigated to the vibe check protocol. I entered the decryption key. Ryan Gosling is overrated. I needed a string Kinsley would never guess. The protocol disengaged. The lockout flags on the database tables lifted. The system took a deep breath. Next, the cancer. I found Kinsley's confetti script. Git revert commit 8F3A21. Enter. The confetti code vanished. The memory usage on the servers instantly dropped from 99% to a healthy 32%. It was like pulling a knife out of a wound. The patient stabilized immediately. Opened the load balancers. I rerouted the traffic from the crashing nodes to the healthy ones. I cleared the cache. I restarted the API gateway. Red lights turned to green. Database healthy. Login active. Response time 45 ms. It took me 19 minutes. I picked up the phone and dialed the boardroom conference line. It's done, I said. It's working. Sterling sounded like he might cry. We're seeing successful logins. The support tickets are dropping. Exams are unfrozen, I said. Students can resume exactly where they left off. No data loss. I've posted a system announcement explaining that the technical difficulties have been resolved and granting every student a 24-hour extension on their deadlines. Thank you, Sterling breathed. Thank you, Tessa. We're not done, I said. That was the patch. Now we need the surgery. I'm going to need to purge the entire front-end repository of any assets uploaded in the last 3 weeks. No more pink error messages. No more affirmations. We are going back to boring. Boring works. Do whatever you have to do, Sterling said, and the apology I asked. Avery's voice came on the line. She sounded small, defeated. It's being drafted. Marketing is working on the wording. No marketing, I said. I'll write it. I'll email you the text. Copy, paste, post. Not change a comma. I typed it out while they waited. To the student community, we messed up. In an attempt to modernize our look, we compromised the stability of the platform you rely on. We ignored the warnings of our technical experts. We prioritized style over substance. We are sorry. We are reverting to the reliable system you know, and we are stepping back to let the engineers do their jobs. Signed, Avery and Kinsley. Send it, I commanded. 5 minutes later, it was on the homepage. The internet exploded again, but this time with vindication. At Study Girl 99, they actually admitted it. Nature is healing. At Code Monkey, this apology smells like a sysadmin held a gun to their heads. I love it. I sat back in my chair. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by a deep, heavy exhaustion. I had won. But I looked at the screen, the lines of code, the scrolling logs, digital architecture I had spent 6 years building. It wasn't just a job anymore. It was a hostage I had just rescued. I checked the MOTD file again. I deleted the warning about the load-bearing column. I replaced it with system status, stable. The adults are back in the room. I drove into the office on Wednesday. I didn't have to. I could have worked remotely forever, but I wanted to see it. The parking lot was full. I walked to the front door. Earl, security guard, saw me coming. He stood up, a massive grin on his face. Miss Tessa, heard you're running the show now. Just fixing the plumbing, Earl, I said. He buzzed me in without asking for a badge. Good to have you back. The office was quiet. The manic energy of the Vibe era was gone. The music was off. People were working. I walked past the visionary suite, Kinsley's old office. It was empty. The neon sign that said Girl Boss was unplugged, leaning against the wall next to a box of half-packed desk toys. Kinsley was gone, pursuing other creative opportunities, the email had said, which translates to, fired so hard she likely vaporized upon exit. I walked to the CEO's office. Avery was packing a box. She looked up when I entered. She looked older. The shiny veneer had cracked. "Here to gloat?" she asked. "No," I said. "Here to make sure you return the laptop. It's company property." She shoved a MacBook across the desk. "Take it. I hate this place anyway. It's too rigid." "It's an exam platform, Avery," I said, picking up the laptop. "It's supposed to be rigid. It's supposed to be fair. It's supposed to work. That's what you never understood. You thought technology was magic. It's not magic. It's labor. It's thousands of hours of invisible labor so that when a kid hits submit, it actually submits." She didn't say anything, just picked up her purse and walked out. I watched her go. I didn't feel sorry for her. She would be fine. She had a trust fund. She'd probably start a podcast about resilience next week. I walked out onto the main floor. Greg, the junior dev, stood up, then another dev, then the whole engineering team. They didn't clap. We're engineers. We don't do slow claps. That's for movies. But Greg just nodded. He pointed to his screen. Uptime, 24 hours. Error rate, 0.00%. I nodded back. I went to my old desk, the one in the corner, away from the windows. They had offered me the corner office, the fishbowl, but I turned it down. The sun glare makes it hard to read the terminal. I sat down. My cactus was still there. Earl must have watered it. I logged in. I checked the queue. Finals were in full swing. 60,000 concurrent users. Everything was green. A support ticket came in. Ticket #9950. Student asking if the confetti is coming back. I smiled. I hit reply. Resolution: no, feature deprecated. Good luck on your exam. I put on my headphones. I queued up my playlist. The hum of the servers was a song I knew by heart. I took a sip of lukewarm coffee. We were stable. I drink alone to Danny DeVito Asmer. Don't judge, it's grounding. We're all healed. Protecting students from failure always meant protecting them from the people who thought failure was just a branding opportunity. Class dismissed.